to be or not to be. The goal of anybody in this world when it comes to being an entrepreneur or being in business for yourself, you're looking for freedom. You're looking for that lifestyle, that independence. You want the financial flexibility to buy the things you want and not worry about if you have it in your budget. So it's very important to consider the journey of being an entrepreneur. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you some very powerful concepts of being in business for yourself, particularly if you're considering the journey of being an entrepreneur. Of course, it's not easy. There's a lot of obstacles, possibly some challenges that you'll have to overcome, more specifically on a personal level when it comes to enduring the hardships that you'll possibly go through and looking ahead in the journey and what to plan for. So I wanted to talk about this video because I think it's very important. I know a lot of people are trying to be in business for themselves. And, they got this New Year resolution planned out that, hey, I'm going to change. I want to become something for myself. I want to do something for my family, leave an everlasting legacy. But to do that, to get to that point, to even consider that, there has to be a couple things. Number one, they must be motivated, right? They must be thinking, hey, I want to be in business for myself because there's a lot of things that's changing in the world and my income's not changing. It's the same or it's stagnant, and there's a lot of expenses that are going up, and I'm not able to enjoy the flexibility and the freedom that I'm supposed to get at this age, possibly, right? And my family's left behind. I'm not enjoying as much as I should. I should be taking vacations, spending more time with my family, but I'm not able to do all that. That could be a trigger. Or a second thing can happen, and it's that you're motivated by some factors, right? And it could be the same factors. It could be the factors of having the flexibility, the independence, the ability to do more than what you're already doing and to create more impact. But at the same time, you got all these type of obstacles. Possibly it's because you have no money. Possibly it's because you're afraid to take that leap of faith to go into entrepreneurship for yourself. Or possibly it's because you have a lot of different people that you're looking at who started their own businesses and have they failed. And of course, there's a lot of justifiable reasons and possible factors that contributed to their failure. But at the same time, you're afraid to take that leap of faith because you feel that your fate is sealed by the same outcome that has happened to that person you were observing. Possibilities, right? But whatever the case, whatever happens, whatever the belief that you have of whether or not entrepreneurship is possible, I'm here to tell you on a personal level, from all the businesses that I've started to some of the failures that I've had to even getting fined up to $60,000 if you guys saw one of my videos, everything is possible. It just takes perseverance. It takes the time to really get to know yourself, to dig deep about on a personal level of what you can be, to let go of a lot of junk, of a lot of insecurities, a lot of fears, and then basically stepping forward and taking that leap of faith and moving ahead. But it's not easy. And it does take a little bit of patience. But today I want to talk about to be or not to be, right? To be an entrepreneur or not to be an entrepreneur. Now, it's not for everybody. And a lot of people is going to say, hey, entrepreneur is easy. You just sit on a computer, open a website, create one, go to WordPress.com or Wix or whatever you guys got, and just launch a business, right? Or do Amazon, fulfillment by Amazon, the Amazon FBA, or do affiliate marketing, or do all these type of things. That's not what business is all about. The first step about business is understanding how to deal with people, right? To be an entrepreneur means you have to be genuinely interested in serving people, to be able to care about the people, to create outcomes for them, to make their life easier. Now, if you're interested in just the money alone, you can keep your job or try to get a higher stake at paying job, right? But of course, entrepreneurship has to give you rewards in a fruity sense that you're going to get a lot of money, right? You can't just be a sour grape and not get the money that you want, but still be happy being an entrepreneur. It doesn't work. But to get that kind of money, to get the flow of income that you're looking to achieve through entrepreneurship or even starting your business requires that you have a sole dedication on a hyper-focused level to be able to serve the customers that you're looking to create outcomes for. But in order to do that, you got to have to understand the type of sacrifices you got to make. You got to have to understand what kind of patience you'll need and whether or not you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So let's go over some of the factors that are all behind us on this whiteboard. So I'm going to give you the positive sides of entrepreneurship. I'm going to talk a little bit about the negatives because you need to know the reality of this, right? It's not like you can just step into something and it'll be all right for you, all rainbows and blue skies. It's not that easy. Entrepreneurship, in fact, is one of the most difficult decisions you'll ever have to make in your life. But once you make it, there's no going back. Because the minute you step back, it's an immediate failure. It's never too late to catch up on it. But what's going to happen is I don't want you guys to go into something and build a habit of saying it's okay not to go forward. It's not okay. Because at the end of the day, if you thought about it, it means you took in all the rationalities and you've taken your time to sacrifice work or possible income to pursue something that you want to build. So to give up on it is not all right because it's your dream. So you have to think hard and strong and thoughtfully before you jump into it. So let's go over some of the positives that you'll experience being an entrepreneur. Of course, you'll have the freedom. Everybody knows that. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur because number one, they want to enjoy with their family, their friends, their colleagues, possible, joint venture partners in the future. They want to enjoy. All right, it's the freedom of taking vacation whenever you want, the freedom of traveling freely and picking up your phone or your computer and working from there, the freedom of coordinating, delegating tasks, right? That freedom is very, very important. That's a golden ticket behind what everybody wants to become an entrepreneur on their own business. There's also wealth. If you do it right, if you pursue entrepreneurship the right way, and as we discussed, if you really care about your customers and you want to create everlasting impact in their lives and make their lives better, money will flow automatically, particularly if you have something unique that you can offer to the marketplace without it throwing it back on you, right? There's a lot of wealth that you can possibly build being an entrepreneur. Now, there's also the legacy you can leave for your family. If you do it right, if you build it right, and we're going to talk about the 3 stages of entrepreneurship right behind me, but if you do it right, your family's going to benefit. They're going to benefit for perpetuity depending on the evergreen type of business that you set up. But the benefit is that you can absolutely leave a legacy for your family if you do it right? There's also branding. So a lot of people think that you have to brand your business. You have to really go after that. While it be true that, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple have their own brand, there's a man behind the scenario. There's a woman behind the scenario. There's always somebody who's driving the brand forward. And it's got to be you, right? So if you don't build branding the proper way, entrepreneurship won't work. So if you're going into business or even considering starting a business of your own, think long and hard about what kind of person you want to be to people who will be taking products or services from you and who will be your customers ultimately, right? So branding is the absolute benefit of being an entrepreneurship. If you do it right, there's a lot of great rewards at the end of the day, and a lot of people would want to do business with you, right? Just your brand alone can multiply the price, add a premium to the price of whatever you're offering. And that's the incredibly powerful tool to have at your disposal, particularly if you want to increase your income, right? And your wealth, of course. There's growth. Entrepreneurship allows you not just to grow your business. It allows you to grow on a personal level. I've experienced that through the decades of business that I've done. The more important thing, though, is when you step into entrepreneurship, when you want to grow on a personal level, you have to hone your craft. You have to constantly work on the income skill that you want to build. Because if you don't have any customers, there's no money at the end of the table. But in order for you to have that customer, you have to really sharpen your skill sets, right? And in order to do that, you got to think about growth. You got to think about a growth on a personal level. You got to think about growth on a skill level. And of course, on a business level. So all these type of situations is the benefit of business. Because at the end of the day, anything can be taken away from you, but those skill sets cannot. And that's very critical to understand. You also have partnerships in the eventuality. So when you hop onto entrepreneurship, what's going to happen is you're going to come across a lot of people who want to do all these type of things with you. But at the end of the day, they always have an agenda. So you have to think long and hard. And hey, listen, when you have that kind of brand that we discussed, when you have that kind of growth opportunity, you're going to get a lot of traffic. It's easy, right? But at the end of the day, you have to choose what kind of partners you want to deal with. You have to choose what kind of partnerships you want to structure so that you both benefit on a win-win scenario. You're going to learn to evaluate that because part of being an entrepreneur is sometimes choosing the wrong partnerships and failing at it to make you realize and to become more skilled and more experienced to wisely decide the next partnerships, right? So it's important. So it's a given. It's going to happen that you're going to have some sour grapes. It's going to happen that you're going to come across some wrong people who are going to try to take advantage of you. But it's up to you to understand through that experience and knowledge to choose the right people afterwards, right? You're going to have the ability to make impact in people's lives. That's a very critical part of being an entrepreneur. When you start a business, when you start something, possibly at the beginning, you're thinking about all these things above, the freedom, the wealth, the brand. You're possibly not thinking about the impact right now. You're thinking, I want to create a customer, I want to create a solution for my customers, right? That's a given. But beyond the solution, what's more important? What's going to happen is that you want to create advocates of your customers, or you want to give them something that they can long for. They can change their lives for the better because of your product and service. You want to create an impact in their life that's going to be long lasting. Now, you guys know me for the business of credit repair, wealth management, and capital raising. But one of the things that I haven't told you guys is part of my goal And this is what I do for high net worth individuals. I plan their financial assets. I look at what are some of the benefits they can do for tax breaks. I look at relocating their assets so that they're protected. They're not exposed to legal issues. But one of the biggest things I do for my people is restructuring their businesses so it makes more sense, right? So that's a high level consulting. But it's important because at the end of the day, if impact is not considered as part of your entrepreneurial journey, nothing can happen. You'll never grow at the pace that you want to have all these above. You want to have wealth, freedom, independence, brand. You have to create an impact because without it, the calculation doesn't make any sense. Okay. So part of my business model is to make sure that the businesses that I coach and mentor, particularly those who want to partner with me, have that model configured so that they know how to make impact in the customers that they're serving, right? So that's the positives of entrepreneurship. Now you got a little bit of the negatives. Now, these are not things to deter you away from entrepreneurship or considering the journey. These are simply factors that you have to consider and whether or not you got to assess for yourself if this is the right thing for you. First thing we're talking about is the entrepreneurship is absolutely unpredictable. And you guys know this. When you're starting business or particularly thinking about doing something for yourself and you jump onto it full faith, right? You take that leap of faith. Sometimes you have a cliff that you just jumped over and you don't know if you're going to make it on the other side. Now what's going to end up happening is you got so many different variable factors. You got these vultures, winds, and all these type of things that are happening. But you have to hold patience. Okay, you have to go into business and becoming an entrepreneur understanding that it's going to be unpredictable. It's really the whole system, right? It's not something that you can pick and choose on what you want to decide on. It's life. You know, it gave you apples. You have to deal with those apples, right? So there's a famous saying. It says, you can't change the cards that you're dealt in your hands, but you can definitely decide on how you play them. Now, these are the cards that you have in your hands. You can't change them, but you have to be prepared knowing that it's going to be unpredictable for you if you're taking the leap of faith of becoming an entrepreneur, right? You also got the fact that it's difficult. Nobody said that being in business for yourself is going to be easy. There's a lot of gurus out there who are motivational speakers and mentors of sorts, but they'll tell you some things like, hey, entrepreneurship is the greatest thing that can happen to me. It's easy. It's not that complicated. We're all here to support you and I'm fine and dandy. But the reality is you have to figure out everything for yourself. So at the first few years, I would even say the first few months, 2 years, it's going to be extremely difficult. You got to figure out for yourself, you know, if you're actually doing the right thing, right? If you got to make a few changes to your business model, all these type of things are going to be factors that you have to consider, and that's going to be difficult. So it's a package. Like I said, you can't change that, but expect it. I'm going to give you the raw information. I want you to be ready. Also, it's going to be very time consuming. You can't expect to go into business and start making money tomorrow unless otherwise, and I'm going to say this very specifically, unless otherwise, you come from an experienced background, you already got committed clients that are willing to shift over to you like a hedge fund of some sort, and then you're easily making money the next day, right? For instance, but you're starting off, nobody knows you. You still have a long way to go to build your brand, your partnerships, your wealth, your business in general. It's going to be very time consuming, but it's something that you want to do because once that's completed, once you overcome the obscurity, which is not people not knowing you, once you become not knowing what's the scenario that's coming tomorrow, right? Making unpredictable and turning it into predictable because you created a system, which we're going to talk about in the 3 stages. And of course, overcoming the difficulties and understanding that investing in yourself and investing in your business is the ultimate future for anything you can possibly do. It's going to be easier. It's not going to be as difficult as it sounds. And it's not going to be as time consuming because now you've built something. You've spent all the time at the beginning and now you can just chill and do what you got to do to grow your business, right? There's a lot of initiative you have to take. So here I wrote, requires initiative. And what I mean by initiative is sometimes nobody's going to hand you these customers, right? Nobody's going to hand pick and select and give you customers. You're not working for somebody else. When you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself. And that means that you got to take every single initiative, every single morning, every single night, every single day, every single afternoon, evening, everything that's necessary. Make the ultimate sacrifice to build that dream that you have, to build that business that you want, to have that level of freedom and wealth that you desire. But in order to do that, you're going to have to initiate a lot, right? You have to take initiative. So that's one of the things that I'm not going to say it's a negative, but I have to put it there because a lot of people don't understand. They think that you just get into business, you just open up a website and that's it, that's all. In fact, it's not. There's a lot more to it than that, right? You have to be organized. It's a very difficult part of entrepreneurship because at the beginning, when you're working a 9 to 5, you got everything handed to you. You have tasks when you get in, you know exactly what to do, what the boss expects from you. But in a business sense, you don't have all that. Everything's uncoordinated. You have to wear many hats, right? Especially if you're on your own. So that means that you really have to get organized. I think that that's a critical component to entrepreneurship. A lot of businesses, a lot of people say a lot of people fail because they don't have the money. But I think what happens is if they're organized properly, would they not have the money if they knew exactly what they're doing? Of course they would, right? So I think the big benefit of entrepreneurship is really to understand that you absolutely need to be organized. You have to be organized. And it's a negative because a lot of people don't kind of foresee that happening when they get into business. They think in a mental state, everything's going to be fine. But by the time they reach that level and they actually cross the Rubicon and go on the other side of the journey in the parallel universe, they soon realize that organization is the golden ticket. It's the key, okay? And one of the biggest negatives I have to say, and I have to admit this happened for many of us, particularly myself, and most entrepreneurs will agree with me, is when you start a business, when you're getting into entrepreneurship, some of the times it's going to take months to even years before you start making your first dollar. Okay, so unless you have a support system, unless you have a side hustle that you can start, you gotta have to commit. Like I told you, it's going to be time consuming because you possibly have obligations, you have jobs to do, right? But you have to understand that it's going to take a little bit of a long time until you get there and you establish something for yourself where you're starting making some positive income. And like I said, you turn that unpredictable into some predictable outcome for your life, right? So that's the assessment I have that I believe is important for you to understand if you're considering being an entrepreneur. That's the golden key, okay? Next step we're going to talk about is this 3 stages of entrepreneurship. Okay, that's very critical. And I'm going to explain these stages for you. And I think that the reason why I need you to know this is because when you're starting a business, a lot of people don't give you this guideline. What they're going to say is you go into business, you start your own thing, and you'll be fine, you'll make some money. But the reality is you got to be well prepared. And you have to understand, like we described here, the positives and the negatives for you to create the ultimate outcome for your business, for you to be the successful entrepreneur that you want to be. So the 3 stages, we got the startup, the growth, and the business. I'm going to talk a little bit about the bonus of expansion. But at the beginning, you have to realize that there are 3 stages. The first thing you want to understand is the startup phase, right? The startup phase is the most difficult one. Why? It's because you have a lot of obstacles and barriers. You're just starting off. You don't have stable income, predictable flow of customers. That deal structure is not proper. There's a lot of things that are happening in your head. Possible obstacles like family, business, work, whatever it is that you got to do. On top of that, you don't have a proven track record yet. So you don't get solid customers right away. You got to build that over time. You got to build that trust. That means you got to take a lot of initiative at the beginning to create that momentum so they can be lifted. So you're at a platform where you're growing. But before you get to that growth stage, you're always starting here, especially if you don't have any track record. So this is very hard. A lot of people try to get into the stage and they're asking for money from investors. Well, if you don't have a track record, like I said, unless otherwise you come from a reputable hedge fund, you got a lot of financial backing or some sort of world track record that people in the industry are writing news articles about you, it's going to be hard. Unless you have solving a problem that, for example, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, whoever, Alphabet, right, see a solution in you because you come from that reputation that they can buy you out. Oh, at the beginning, it's going to be a very difficult journey. So at a startup stage, that's the time where you got to consider all this and calculate in a very intelligent manner and get organized to execute this flawlessly. It's going to take time. But by the time you're done from the startup stage and you actually start over and you shift to the growth stage, you basically became, you've overcome the most difficult part. The most difficult part is done. You have some sort of a track record now, right? It's easier to get some financing. You can actually go out there because you'll have inventory. You have your business, you have your customers, or you have cash flow you can show in the bank account. You have financials. You can actually work with your financial institutions to get extended credit, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about that. But at the beginning, you're never going to start as a growth. You can always be a startup. But this is the most important area of your life when you're considering becoming an entrepreneur. You have to understand that this is going to be very difficult. If you don't understand this part and you're expecting everything to be smooth, you're being unrealistic. So be ready to face difficulties at that situation. Once you've overcome that, once you finish that up and it's done deal, you're at a growth stage, you're doing good for yourself. But you have to keep growing. You have to work harder now, and you have to stay more committed to keep what you got. Because at that stage, it's possible to even grow bigger and bigger, right? And that's the time when you've established yourself a business. Now, a lot of people think you're an entrepreneur, you get into business, you got a business. Not really. And we're at the beginning, you're still a startup. You don't got no structure. You don't got no predictability. You don't got delegations and tasks that you can hand out to people who would replace it, so you can focus on growing on the most important thing and doing the most important thing, which is growing your business. So once you pass that growth stage, when you develop certain systems in that stage, then you're getting to the business level. We actually have something steady and stable and predictable. We discussed that. Now you have established something. You have something that's predictable. You have a track record. You have some sort of financing, investors, etc., some financial models running for you. And it's easier now if you have a solid business that is actually serving a huge total addressable market, which we say TAM. You can actually start franchising. You can start developing systems so other people can replicate it for you, so they don't have to work as hard as you did. But at the same time, you benefit from upfront financing or some sort of upfront capital commitment, right? And now your new type of customers will become these franchisees or these type of people who are looking for your business system. And you can actually sell that, license it, and start making a lot more money. And we talked about that. It's growing your wealth and having a lot more freedom and flexibility. So in order to get to this business level, I think it's very important that you actually master the startup sense. Once you overcome this, you build a solid track record, you get some solid growth happening, then you can start delegating, creating systems, documentation, etc., etc. The type of consulting that I do typically. But once you pass that level, you're at a business. That's the stage everybody wants to be at. So to be or not to be as an entrepreneur, everything is around understanding the pluses and the negatives, but at the same time, the 3 stages that you'll have to go through, and ultimately the 4th. Now, as a bonus, I talk about expansion. What does that mean, expansion? Expansion is when you're at a level here that you can start taking your entire business system and start acquiring competitors. You can start acquiring bigger and better fish that have your market space, expanding into different territories that are complementary to your business, right? So an example of that could be, let's say you're a restaurant owner and you create a successful franchise, and now you see opportunity in food packaging because everybody loves your products or your food. That's an expansion. That's a territory. Maybe the manufacturer is going down. His numbers are not good. But if you take your business model and implement it and buy him out, you can double or triple your business, and in the eventuality, sell it for a lot of wealth, right? Multiply that. So expansion is the dream of all entrepreneurs. They want to get to that level. But nothing can happen without successfully executing the startup phase, to going on a growth phase and developing systems to create a successful business, and then thinking about growth. So that's all I got to say, guys. It's really something you have to consider. So do you want to be an entrepreneur or you don't want to be an entrepreneur? That's up to you. I'll leave it off for this. And remember, no matter what you choose, you have to be okay with it. Don't regret decisions in life. 2019 is coming up. I know it's going to be very busy for you guys. So I want you to think hard and long and thoughtfully about what I just discussed with you today. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Turn that bell icon on so every time there's a brand new video such as this, you'll be first to be notified. And feel free to share your thoughts and feedback below this video. Tell me what you guys think about what I said today. If you agree with me, of course, that'd be nice. If you got anything to add, feel free. If you feel that I missed something, feel free to add it below. And don't forget to subscribe to my premium newsletter where I'll be sharing updates, thoughts, and of course, industry products and services with you guys. This is Ali Tarafdar, your guide and mentor. Bye for now.